How exactly do the Dark Eldar come back from the dead? How much of them is required for this to be possible? And what dangers does it hold? Friends, let's find out, and welcome to another 40k video. We start with a homunculi of the Dark Eldar, who can perform the resurrection procedure. And so you can follow the next passage. Nios is an Archon who wants to overthrow Vect, the current ruler of Camorra, and to do this the plan is to bring back, from the dead, a long dead and vanquished enemy of Vect's, his biggest rival. And in these next sections, Sneering and Belathonis are homunculi. Nios asks, how could you remake a highborn who had been lost for a very long time, centuries, perhaps even millennia? Sneering responded, a complex process, my Archon. The fresher the remnant, the more quickly and safely the body can be regenerated. I see. Without a fresh remnant, as you put it, what conditions would be most conducive to success? A potent victim is required, Sneering warns the Archon. There are risks. Some amongst my brotherhood hold that the effort to return Vlokarion directly contributed to the fifth disjunction, my Archon. Sneering whispered, fearful. Such things can only be known, Nios said slowly, because some of your kin have attempted it before. Tell me of them. Tell me who can fill the gaping void that evidently exists in your knowledge. There's one amongst our brotherhood who has delved deep into such matters, Sneering admitted reluctantly. A master by the name of Belathonis. So what does this little bit tell us? You have to have died recently to be brought back easily and quickly, but you can be brought back quickly and with little risk. The risk seems to grow as the time since your death extends. So, Nios dismisses Sneering and finds Belathonis and asks him, now tell me how the procedure is performed. Belathonis looks at Nios and responds, firstly, the body must be regrown. For this, the smallest fragment of the subject can be used. Even ashes will suffice. Belathonis said, as one obscenely long finger was lowered. Secondly, the animating spirit must be recalled into the body and then nourished with sufficient pain and suffering of another. The second horrid digit lowered to join its twin. If these two requirements are fulfilled, it is my belief that any regeneration may be performed. Death can't hold us with either weight of years or violence if we have but the will to survive. I have to drop in here a moment. We know human souls generally sort of dissipate or get picked up by the demons or the gods in the warp. It seems to me that the Eldar souls hang around for longer, whether it be for some sort of protection they have that we don't know about, or whether it be because of the area that they are in. Because this dude's soul has been around for a long time and can now be brought back to the body. For that to be possible, the soul needs to continue to exist in the warp. Anyway, back to our regularly scheduled program. Belathonis' fist was gripped tightly by now. Nios found himself nodding. I was led to understand there were terrible risks involved, that overly ambitious attempts had triggered disjunctions in the past. Belathonis' sharp features curled in disgust. Fear leads my brethren to create connections where none exist, the tall homunculus replied dismissively. The key to restoring the long dead is a secret they all seek. After all, what greater power could a coven wield than life or death itself? Their future would be assured for all eternity, so each coven pursues its own ends and tries to foil the attempts of the others, not least through stories of dreadful failure and dire consequences. Pure hypocrisy. Belathonis says, to banish someone who has been gone for hundreds of thousands of years requires a sacrifice of someone with a pure heart. Vlokarion was one of the greatest homunculi ever to grace the Dark City. Vlokarion was fascinated by the muddy branches of our race that turned aside from the true way to mire themselves in primitivism and monasticism. Belathonis swiveled the tomb towards Nios, to point to elements of a complex diagram picked out in silver ink on the pale skin of the pages. So he continued. So here, the unbroken line of the ancients leading to their inheritors in Camorra. See here the twin branching paths of the sterile Eldar of the craft worlds and the simpleton followers of Isha, the Exodites. For some reason, the description of the Exodites as simpletons just made me chuckle. And I like the rewriting of history here so that the Comorans are the true descendants of the ancients. Vlakarian believed that during the fall, the racial soul of the Eldar was divided like colourless light striking a prism. The division led to each branch of our race, embracing or rather expressing different parts of our nature to the exclusion of others. The broad straight path leading from the ancients to Comora bore a version of the mark of Kela Menchikane, the dragon rune denoting fury. Belathonis pointed out a prominent rune on the craftworld path, a variant of the sign of Azurian, discipline. Finally, he pointed to a different rune on the Exodite path, this one showing the sign of Isha, purity. Vlakarian proved on many occasions that the quantity of dark energy that could be harvested from Eldar subjects exceeded that of the slave races many times over, Belathonis explained, and the Exodites most of all. He speculated that with a pure enough specimen to work with, he could resurrect the greatest legends of Eldar history. A pure heart could be found on a maiden world amongst the Exodite clans. The Exodites bind their souls to what they call the world spirit of their home planet in order to escape She Who Thirsts. Vlakarian himself mentions that they seldom leave their shrines buried deep in the heart of their worlds, and that these places are normally completely inaccessible to outsiders. If you could find such a world singer and bring them to me, I feel confident that I could resurrect Eldanesh himself. We can see from here that to bring back a Dark Eldar needs some remains, even ash, and someone to bring forth the pain that can then be used to keep the new body going, a pure heart in this case. Now they're able to get a world singer to bring back El Uriak, that's the name of Vect's biggest rival, which I failed to pop into the script earlier on for some reason. So the dead rival is brought back. And the energy, there's a little surplus, so it's also used to heal a dying Archon, who goes by the name Kralach. And I'm having a lot of fun here trying to pronounce these odd Dark Eldari names. And here we see one of the dangers due to the time ago he was killed. El Uriak's body is possessed by a demon of Tzeentch. Kralach watches as things go wrong, the twisting rope of psychic energy passing beyond Kralach's sarcophagus, thickened into a river, etheric ambrosia that laved his raw body and fed his parched soul. The breath of true life gusted through him, satiating him in a way he had not known in 1,000 years. New skin, fresh and pink, as a newborn's, was already spreading over his red-boned hands. He mewed with pleasure as he basked in the suffering of a pure heart. Suddenly, Kralach felt that something was very wrong. A presence was growing close by, a faint trace of spirit that he had originally dismissed as irrelevant. He felt it become stronger, forming a hole-like chink in reality that widened inevitably. The flowing river of revivifying energy was being drawn into it like a whirlpool, torn away from Kralach to feed the growing entity. He whimpered helplessly as he was starved of the essence he so desperately wanted, and he felt the presence coming to full sentience like the slow unfolding of a dreadful flower. The vortex reopened, and the awful sentience behind it leapt to full life. Newly formed eyes pierced Kralach from all directions at once, inside and outside, and from angles that have no name. It perceived every part of him. Every moment of his long life was birth to death, examined, mercilessly turning him inside out in a horrific spiritual vivisection. A conclusion was reached, septic energies narrowing their focus and erupting into Kralach's quivering form, psychic pus from cancerous realms outside reality jetting into his hollow soul. Life matrices were remade and altered accordingly, the demonic loom of fate howling as it shuttled out his new destiny with feverish intensity. Caught inside his crystal-faced tomb, Kralach writhed in 8 dimensions as he was reborn from within. With its seed planted, the multi-dimensional sentience set to completing reconstruction of its own form, reaching into the energy flow it wrapped itself in, the necessary trappings, transfiguring raw warp stuff into cohesive matter. Bones reknitted, sheathed themselves with cartilage, tendons and ligaments whipped into place, and muscle tissue flowed to cover newfound limbs and torso like hardening wax. Within seconds, skin was spreading over the mannequin-like cadaver, ballooning to accommodate thickening muscles and a deepening chest. Fingers flexed with new life, balled into fists. So, can you see there the danger of bringing back a long Dark Eldar? And there's some fantastic descriptions there as the Dark Eldar form is taken over by demonic possession. Just to note, this is taken from the Path of the Renegade. Do you think it's worth a risk? Are there areas of the process to bring back a Dark Eldar that you'd like to see covered in some of the other books? And just to note, these Dark Eldar books, I've never been able to get into the characters just because of the types of characters they were, but the lore was fantastic. Definitely worth a read on that point alone. On that note, friends, we'll wrap up today's video.